Oh, now it started.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Today, me and Anders Smith are going to do basically a video challenging one of the worst, if not the worst, attacks on the Kalam Cosmological argument on YouTube. Now, don't think it's just going to be um, completely saying the Kalam is awesome, it's perfect. Anders here is an atheist. I myself am very skeptical of the Kalam too. We'll probably be going into ways you should critique the Kalam cosmological argument, but this is basically a kind of an illustration how not to challenge the Kalam. And basically, Mr. Epsilon is going to be our poster boy for this one. So basically, we're just going to play through it, pause it at times where we think it screws up, and show you how not to do it. So there'll be times where Anders is going to ask me to pause, and I'll pause, and there'll be times when I'll pause to point something out. But in any case, we're just going to start it now, and hopefully the audio comes through correctly.
All right. Yeah, before you start it, though, remember this video starts off with some horrible commercial bullshit that we're just going to completely skip. And also, yeah, it is definitely the worst video on the Kalam that's on YouTube. It's worse than Bionic Dances. It's the worst I've ever seen.
And wow. I don't think I could give you guys any more scathing criticism than that, so I'm not even going to try. And yes, so the beginning is basically a commercial for audible.com. I don't use that site. I prefer just to download all my books because it's that much easier. So don't be bot, people. Don't be bot. So it's about a minute in where we're going to skip over that and commence.
I could actually argue, I think this is used more than Pascal's wager. This argument makes a little more sense than the Pascal's wager, but Pascal's wager is just... It's such a stupid argument, I'm not even sure if it's ever even worth making a video about, to be honest. But nonetheless, I wanted to make the one on the cosmological
I think he's already said something stupid.
In religious discussions or...
I'm sorry?
Well, he's attacking Pascal's wager, which I don't like that argument either. But what do you bet that he couldn't refute it, though?
I would honestly bet dollars to donuts on it. Not only that, but I can probably, if he was to do one, I can easily refute it. I mean, Jacqueline Glenn made one. I made a response to that, which is fairly easy. In fact, you made a response to my response, and actually gave far better critiques than most of the attacks on Pascal's wager on YouTube. So, yeah, for anyone who wants to check out those videos, I'll post a link to that video from my own channel and Anders' channel in the description. But for now, we're just going to continue on with the vid.
Conversations I have with religious folks. So, I'm not a philosophy major. I'm going to try to explain this as
That's obvious.
as possible.
That one makes total sense. I totally buy that you are not a philosophy major.
Yeah, so he's going to spend quite a bit here just framing the argument, and he sounds like such an idiot doing this. This is hilarious. So yeah, let's just watch.
So this is the argument. This is how it goes, the cosmological argument. Premise 1, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Premise 2, the universe began to exist. Premise 3, therefore the universe had a cause.
Well, already there, the third thing is not a premise, that's a conclusion. A syllogism is two premises followed by a conclusion, the major premise, which is the first, and the minor premise, which is the second. Then you get the conclusion either through modus ponens, P therefore P, if P Q, P therefore Q, or modus tollens. If P Q, not P therefore not Q, something of that nature. So yeah, basically, he does not frame it that well going in, but you know that's just me being.
Oh, he's not done yet. It gets worse.
We're not done yet. It does get worse, and that's just me being pedantic. And I recognize I'm being pedantic, but let's go further.
Pretty simple. That's not really complex. Some of these premises and arguments that if you go into philosophy can get really big, really long, and really complex. However, this is one of the more basic ones. But I'm not done yet. This argument, the three premises that I just listed, actually has what is known as sub-premises. These are more, I guess you could call them prequel premises.
I don't want to call them that.
They're not prequel premises, they're sub-premises.
Yeah, I mean...
yeah. basically they're premises to support one of your other premises. Otherwise, it would just be an assertion. But you were saying something. You want to say something about that?
I don't know why he calls them prequel premises. I've never heard that before, but
Yeah. I think maybe he was thinking of Star Wars or something. I don't know.
I mean, he's started off. He's been pretty inarticulate and redundant a few times, and he's just going to continue. I'm pretty sure he's going to get one of these sub premises wrong here.
All right.
This argument, and I'm not sure how many people watch William Lane Craig or know who he is, but he's a very big theistic philosopher who debates Christianity and defends Christianity. Well, he uses what is known as these sub-premises to try to argue the cosmological argument. So I'm going to list them as 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, and they go like this. 2.1, an infinite temporal regress of events would constitute an actual finite. 2.2, an actual...
All right, yeah, it's important right there. He got 2.1. It's supposed to be an actual infinite. He said actual finite. I don't know why. But
I think, yeah, I would say he just misspelt it, but he actually pronounced it actual finite. So I think he just didn't copy and paste it correctly.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't notice, but it's just important for everyone to know that that's not what the argument says, because I mean that would completely screw it up.
Basically.
Cannot exist. 2.3. Therefore, an infinite temporal regress of events cannot exist. Now, what I just listed, you may be completely confused. And if you are, that's okay. I'm going to try to explain this further in the argument. Those are just some sub-premises that further are used to try to strengthen this, which actually fails really, really badly. But I want you to notice on 2.2, it says an actual infinite cannot exist. There's a problem there. Do you see it? This is nothing like the other premises. This is a bare assertion.
No, it's not.
Yeah, all right, stop in there. That's ridiculous. All right. See, I don't know what he wants because all the premises are just statements. I mean, that's what an argument looks like. If he expected every single premise to come with like a complete defense of it, then he'd just have a book. I mean, the argument is wrapped into this concise package. He's never seen a philosophical argument before. I mean, that's the way they are. I mean, he's got the premises and then the conclusion. I mean, what he wants there to be a defense laid out for the premise in the premise. It makes no sense. I don't know what he's asking for because so far all of them have just been statements.
Basically, and he even goes on later in the video to give a defense of that statement, meaning he knows full well that it's not a bare assertion.
Oh yes. Yes, he knows. He talks about Hilbert's hotel later. You know, the paradox with an actual infinite. So yeah, he knows that there's a defense for it. But I think the problem that he's saying is that the premise itself doesn't support itself. It doesn't come with its own defense or something. I mean, I have no idea how he thinks is an objection, because if you look at it, I mean, they're all bare assertions. That's the way. I mean, of course they are. They don't. They're just sentences.
Yeah, they come with content with it that the other person has to explain to somebody else. And then when you're explaining the content and giving reasons for your content, then that person can say, I disagree with that or I agree with it. But yeah, to read the statement and say, oh, that's just a bare assertion is just ridiculous. All of them are technically just quote-unquote assertions by his standard. In any case, let's continue on with this.
Actual infinite cannot exist. Just keep note of that red flag later on in the video because I will be going back to that. The first thing upon examination of these arguments, these premises, is you're going to see that they're very, very weak. If an argument's conclusion doesn't follow the premises, you're going to have a very hard time trying to convince or even show people that this is a rational, cogent, sound conclusion. So back to premise one. Whatever begins to exist...
You want to pause that there?
Oh, no, just keep going.
All right.
Has a cause. This is not a fact, but rather a very large assumption. This is actually based on the concept from nothing comes nothing, which is ex nihilo, I believe it's pronounced.
No, he's wrong.
No, wrong.
Like he has the definition of ex nihilo on the screen, and that's the right definition. But what he says is from nothing comes nothing. That contradicts the definition he has on the screen. So, yeah, he's just
Yeah, exactly. On the screen, that's creation ex nihilo. That's the way God creates the universe, without anything or without anything prior. Basically, creation ex nihilo is what he's defining, whereas the phrase "from nothing nothing comes" is actually a Greek way of phrasing it. This would just be an objection to, well, basically the notion of something coming from nothing in itself. Nothing, by its very nature, produces nothing. Otherwise, it would be something.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna. He's already said it's just an assumption. Like Craig has this argument about how, non-being cannot produce anything because it has no properties and no potentiality, and he goes on about that. We're not going to hear anything from Mr. Repzion that could possibly support the argument or even give the argument a fair chance, because either he just doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's just not going to represent it fairly. But yeah, so I mean, he has the definition on screen. That's not the same thing as saying from nothing comes nothing. I mean,
exactly. And basically, it's probably one of the easiest ones to defend. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck in a bit of a metaphysical absurdity.
yeah. I don't know why I have no idea why he brings this up.
At least theoretical bullshit does a good job of attacking the Kalam argument by saying, basically, if you're going to use ex nihilo as your defense and advocate for creation ex nihilo, then then you're basically in doublethink. At least that's a cogent argument against the proposition. But I don't think Mr. Epsilon is too articulate and knowledgeable to even copy the right people. But by the way, we'll save that. I think I might have gave a spoiler away, but we'll get across that when it comes. And anyway, with the rest of the video.
That right. It seems like it would be logically impossible for something to come from nothing. However, logic is just a descriptor that we humans have created, an imperfect descriptor.
All right, here we go. That's it. I mean, it's over at this point. I mean, that's where he denies logic, of course.
Basically, well, I mean, basically, imagine if you're using a logic. All right, just to give you guys some example of how ridiculous this is. Imagine if you're in an argument with a theist and you're using the problem from evil, or just arguing that God's properties are incompatible with one another, and they come out and say, yeah, but logic is an imperfect descriptor of God. You know that, right? Basically, Mr. Epsilon is doing the exact same thing here.
What he thinks this is an objection. You could say this to any argument. You could be like, oh, well, you're using logic. I don't believe in logic. He doesn't see the problem with that. He just sits there and literally just denies logic here.
Exactly. At least if he was to say something along the lines of, well, that's a classical mode of logic you're using. I prefer non-classical logical systems that actually would give rise to something like that. At least that would be somewhat defensible. I don't even know how to make that kind of argument myself, but I highly doubt Mr. Epsilon could do anything of the like.
So we spent some time on this. I don't think we need to go on about. Do we really need to say what's wrong with denying logic as an objection?
Apparently we had to, but yeah, I don't think this needs to go on any further. Let's continue.
Of reality and in nature. The reality is, on quantum levels of existence, there are many things about their behavior which is very non-intuitive or counterintuitive. In fact, we don't know a whole lot about the different stages in our universe before the Big Bang, because there was no time, no structure, anything that we know of now. Even today, when we start studying quantum physics, some of the things that we observe and document fly in the face of quote-unquote logic that we know. One of many examples of this could be simply the molecule that is in two places at once.
All right, wait a minute.
No.
Yeah. I had to get the phone there for a second, but I think he's already gotten to the point where he said that quantum physics contradicts logic or something?
Yeah, basically based around that is his main argument. Considering this is YouTube, this is probably one of the worst examples of using quantum mechanics to prove anything ever, and that's saying something. So I don't think he's informed enough to be speaking on quantum mechanics, first and foremost.
Yeah, so nothing in quantum physics contradicts logic. That would, if anything did, that would be the ultimate disproof of quantum physics, and we wouldn't do it anymore.
Not,
So
not, to, not to mention the fact that there are like 10 different interpretations one can go by. One could even possibly say it's instrumental. And quantum mechanics uses kind of its own special logic, does it not?
So yeah, logic. You'd think in arguments, logic would be considered something important. That has some relevance, and he's disregarded it already. And that leads me to question this whole time, like, what does he want out of any of these arguments? Like, if logic doesn't matter, if the argument can be logically sound, and make perfect sense, and that doesn't matter to him, what does he want? I mean, what is he asking for? What would constitute an objection if you can say that something's contradictory and that doesn't matter, then what do you do to what do you do to argue with? I don't understand.
Maybe if we were to be a little more, maybe if I was to be a little more charitable, maybe he's saying, well, quantum mechanics is counterintuitive, therefore maybe this is counterintuitive. Still, that doesn't follow. Just because quantum mechanics might be a little counterintuitive, but to just compare that to literally something coming into being from nothing, which itself is absurd, that's not helping your case at all. One can easily defend that quantum mechanics is counterintuitive, but at least we're only at the stage of trying to understand it.
Yeah,
Whereas,
he hasn't made this a real analogy. He's just said, okay, quantum physics is counterintuitive too, but like, are they on the same level? I mean, he hasn't really demonstrated or even tried to demonstrate that at all.
that's why I call this charity. I don't think he just. I'm trying to be charitable as possible here.
It's hard.
It's hard. I know. So yeah, I think you'd need a lot of charity to say that something coming into existence from nothing is on par with quantum mechanics, which it's not. Not to mention that, sure, that might be the case for one or two interpretations, but certainly there are more intuitive interpretations one could take. Not an expert on quantum mechanics or anything, but neither is this guy. Just saying.
Contradiction arises in our logic when we think about something coming from nothing means that it is always the case, has always been the case even before the universe began, and will always be the case when
What the fuck?
Well, there's no such thing as before the universe began.
Like, this is the part that I had to write down. I mean, I have it all written down here. You can go ahead and play it, and then I'll read it slowly, and we'll try to make sense of it piece by piece. But, I mean, there's nothing that can be done about it, really. But, yeah, go ahead and let him finish up. He ends it. Yeah, go ahead and let him keep going.
All right.
The universe, which is an assumption that is not demonstrated, proven, or backed up by any fact other than just saying it, seems contradictory that it would be so. Number two.
Okay, I'll just stop it right here.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what he said. This is the complete paragraph. So to assume a contradiction arises in our logic when we think about something coming from nothing means that it is always the case, has always been the case even before the universe began, and will always be the case when the time of heat death of the universe, which is an assumption that is not demonstrated, proven, or backed up by any fact other than just saying it, seems contradictory that it would be so. So that's what he said there, and I don't know what the fuck to do about that. I don't know why he did that.
As somebody who has quite a fair bit of background in English, I'm not sure what language he was speaking because that seemed a bit incoherent. Not a bit, because I think no, that's a sentence fragment. I think that is a textbook example of a sentence fragment because it literally had no point to it. It was an extended sentence that just rambled on. But grammar aside, it doesn't. No, contradictory means doesn't. It's not a normative thing. It doesn't mean that, oh, that's what we've always observed and therefore it should go on. It's not about just consistent observation. It's about the fact that it makes no coherent sense. When you say something is a triangle and a square at the same time, that's a contradiction because you cannot have the properties of being a triangle and a square at the same time. It's not a contradiction because we haven't seen square triangles before. It's a contradiction because those two properties are mutually incompatible with one another. Just like the notion of something and nothing having any kind of causal chain with one another.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't. There's no point that can be salvaged from any of that. So we're just gonna leave that alone. I mean, we can go on about how, like you were saying, you're gonna have to start using logic if you're gonna want to make any sense. But I mean, even if he was using logic, like he can't even put a goddamn sentence together because I put one period in this. I mean, at the end of it, I assume this is one complete sentence. So, but yeah, I mean, it was all just spliced together, and it was just completely chaotic and made absolutely no sense. Um,
I can only imagine how many times you had to replay this exact same part to get it down correctly.
I was like, what the fuck? I watched that part, and I was thinking, like, I mean, look at how many goddamn likes he got for this video. People watch this thing, presumably at least some of the way through, and agreed. I don't. Can you even agree with that? Is it possible to agree with something that doesn't even mean anything?
Well, from my experience, people have a tendency to like things that are pretty stupid. And I'm not saying that about all people to be snide here. I was also a person who liked stupid things just because it was a position that agreed with my position, or for some shallow reason. I've made that mistake too. I still make it at times, but yeah, people like shitty things. It's common, and I'm no exception to that rule.
Yeah, it's a problem that people that I mean, you read the comments on this. There are people arguing with him. There are people agreeing with him. Most of them agreeing with him. No one seems to notice this train wreck of like he can't even speak. I mean, but yeah, go on.
The universe began to exist. This is actually based on the Big Bang, and I don't really come across a lot of people who try to disprove that. However, there's a problem when theists try to argue this premise because they always seem to fall in line with known as the fallacy of equivocation. Because there are many different definitions, and every person defines what the universe is differently.
No, everybody does not define the universe differently.
Basically,
Who does he talk to? Where did he get that idea?
people define it differently in different. People give different context to which they mean universe. Granted, but when Craig uses it, he uses an explicit definition, i.e., all of physical reality. It's not just our four-dimensional manifold, like maybe we'd have it in physics. It's literally all of physical time and therefore space. It's that kind of definition. It's fairly easy.
I don't know what he's getting at. I mean, I know Craig always uses the same definition. It's perfectly clear what he means by that. It's like he's saying that if you ask people on the street, they'll just give you different definitions of what they mean by the universe, which has no relevance at all. And even then, I don't think they'll all give you a different definition unless they're just stupid. I mean, but anyway, yeah.
Also, the fallacy of equivocation is only relevant if you're using the same word in two different ways in the same argument. As long as your definition is consistent, you're not equivocating.
Yeah, I don't even think he goes any further with that. I think he just said that and then abandons it and never mentions it again in the video.
Yep.
Lawrence Krauss defines it this way, and I quote, "All the things we could possibly know, meaning that there would be other universes. But that doesn't matter to us. It doesn't affect us in any way."
Okay.
Yeah, just the fact that you quoted Lawrence.
The second line of that quote did not belong there. Like, we didn't need to know that at all. I don't know why he kept reading that.
But what's even worse is he quoted Lawrence Krauss on this. Lawrence Krauss, I think it's fair to say he's a bit of a moron, at least when it comes to the philosophical stuff.
Oh, definitely, yeah. So he quotes Lawrence Krauss. I forget what he defined the universe as, like something like everything, including multiple universes or something.
I think
matter though, is because I don't know what he's getting at here. I mean, it's not like he's contesting anything by bringing up Lawrence Krauss's definition. He's like that's not an objection in any way. And
yeah, because that would just fit under Craig's paradigm. The universe is literally all of physical reality, so if you're throwing in a multiverse there, that just becomes a part of the quote-unquote universe, like Craig is saying.
He hasn't escaped anything by doing that.
Nope. Commence.
I think most people would say that when we talk about the universe means everything that we could possibly encounter and imagine and everything that is. Everything in totality would be the...
I don't think the universe is everything you can imagine.
No,
I mean, why
no.
would that be the case?
And again, just expanding the definition of universe doesn't even help your case, because in the context of the argument being presented to you, it's all of physical, quote unquote, physical reality.
Yeah, see, I didn't even count this part as an objection because I don't see where he's going with this. I mean, he's trying to come up with a definition of the word universe, and once he's finished with this, where does he go with it? I mean, he has no point to make. So, yeah.
Basically.
Now, or that could arise. If that's true, then this premise is yet another assumption. Because we know the Big Bang happened. The configuration of the universe right now. You see, we don't know what happened before the Big
What
Bang.
the fuck?
We don't know why the...
Like, right then he says, we know the Big Bang happened, and then he just says, the configuration of the universe right now. He just says that right afterwards. That doesn't... he misedited or something. That clip does not belong there. I have no idea why that's there.
Neither do I myself. I think he's a bit confused on this issue, but that's been evident since the beginning of the video. So basically, I think his main... I should really stop using that word. So right now, the problem with his contention is it's not about whether or not we know what happened before the Big Bang. It's whether or not the Big Bang can be pointed to as our point of existence or our starting point of existence. And even if there was something, quote unquote, before the Big Bang, that doesn't mean the universe didn't have a beginning at some point prior to the Big Bang. So yeah, not getting out of it. But maybe he'll challenge that when it comes to the more actual infinite, the whole actual infinites portion.
Big Bang was caused, but we do have information regarding dark matter, dark energy, and expanding universes. But we really don't know what the
expanding universe. We do not have information regarding expanding universes.
Like, yeah, we have information regarding our expanding universe.
Yeah, I mean, but he doesn't even know what he just threw those terms out there. He has no idea what that has to do with anything. So.
And commence.
The universe is actually finite or infinite. Some theories suggest that it could be. The point that I'm trying to make here is that the premise that the universe began to exist is a slippery premise, because you have to define what you mean by the universe.
And he already does.
Yes,
so,
that's done. Let's move on. I mean, what is wrong with him? I don't get this. He's spent too long on this, and he doesn't have a point to make. Just, God.
Honestly, you could really just go to reasonable faith and just say, like, hey, how do I challenge these? Oh, wow, he does have a definition of universe. I was totally wrong. Never mind.
Being the Big Bang, that's awesome. But equivocating the Big Bang as all there is, you instantly start opening the book of fallacies, and you run into fallacy after fallacy after fallacy.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
One fallacy. No, not at all.
How do you run into an entire book of fallacies? Like, I don't think of even he doesn't do that when he speaks. So I mean, like, that was just a horrible, like, that was just a stupid comment to make.
Yeah, and basically he does define. Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's his main point of contention over and over and over again, and Craig does define universe. No more.
See, regarding this
as a cause.
about the the universe began to exist premise, like, normally when people have this discussion, something like, the Borguth-Vilenkin theorem will come up, and people will debate, does that mean the universe began to exist? Is there a way out of it? Something like that. He doesn't even say anything to do with that. Like, seriously, what is he talking about? He's completely passed over that. That's like the main thing that's being debated here, is the actual evidence in cosmology that says the universe began to exist. Is that there or not? Like, he doesn't even, he has no comment to make at all.
Not one whatsoever.
Well, duh. The universe as we know it right now has a cause, and that was, well, the Big Bang. What this argument is set out to prove is that...
is he serious? He agrees with the conclusion.
Yes.
And no, this is even worse than that, because the Big Bang is literally part of the universe on his definition.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll see later. He has no problem with that, because one of his proposed solutions to the argument is that the universe calls itself to exist. So that's basically what he's saying there, is that the Big Bang part of the universe made the universe. or something like that. So yeah, I mean, he has no idea what he's talking about. He's already, as far as I know, he was trying. I mean, he was scraping the bottom of the barrel with trying to deny logic and do whatever he can to get out of this argument, and then he goes ahead and concedes the conclusion at the end. I have no idea why anyone would do that.
No idea whatsoever. Yeah, I completely agree.
Infinites cannot exist. And going back to premise 2.2, that's another bare assumption.
Wait, he just said
infinite.
He said the argument set out to prove that infinities cannot exist. Obviously, that is not what the cosmological argument is trying to prove. That's a supporting premise in the argument, but the argument's conclusion is not that infinities can't exist.
I would completely agree with that. The conclusion is the universe has a cause, and then anterior to that, then after that, you just basically say, well, because of the universe's makeup, it has to be timeless, spaceless, incorporeal, powerful enough to bring it into existence. That sounds a lot like God, therefore it's God. That kind of thing. But yeah, he kind of screws up on this one.
It cannot exist. 2.3, therefore an infinite temporal regress of events cannot exist. This has not been demonstrated in science whatsoever. In fact, it's a heavily, even to this day, heavily debated topic among philosophers and scientists. This has to be demonstrated in order for this argument to carry any weight. But how exactly does the theist, the Christian, the religious person do that? William Lane Craig likes to use the example of what is known as Hilbert's Hotel. If you're not familiar with this concept, you have an infinite amount of rooms, and all of those rooms are full. You take one person and you move them in room 2. You take the one person in room 2 and you move them to room 3. You take that person in room 3 and you move them to room 4. And on and on and on. And of course, by shifting everybody down, you're always going to have one empty room. And guess what William Lane Craig says about that? He laughs. You see, atheists, when you're working with infinity, absurd things happen. Absurdities arise. So it would be absurd if this situation actually existed in the universe. Stop right there. If we go back to 2.2, it doesn't follow from the rest of the argument. It is merely an assertion based on William Lane Craig's subjective conclusion. That's
okay, Mr. Epsilon really needs to learn what the hell an assertion is. An assertion is basically when you state something and don't have need to back up your claim. That's it. It doesn't. If you actually provide a following reason for your statement, then it's not an assertion. I know I kind of went into this earlier in the video, but this kind of thing just pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, he says it's subjective. I mean, it's a paradox. He shows if you ever watch William Lane Craig talk about this or read anything he's written about it, I mean, he explains why he thinks it's absurd. He doesn't just say, well, I think it seems weird or something. I mean, yeah, this is just terrible.
And yeah, the point of a reductio ad absurdum is to reduce a concept into absurdity. That's the whole point. It's a respected philosophical approach. I really don't understand how hard that is to follow either. But I digress. Let's move on.
Such a thing would be...
Oh, wait, I also forgot. He kind of screws up on Hilbert's Hotel. It's not necessarily the fact that there is one empty room. It's just the fact that you can keep on fitting an incredible amount of people in this room. You could even double the infinity, triple it. It's to show that while it might be logically consistent, it's not possible to have such a hotel. So, yeah, he even gets
I noticed that too. All he did was tried to explain how you would fit somebody, how you would empty a room out for somebody. I mean, it goes on. There's different things that they're done with the hotel than that, but yeah.
Absurd. And this goes for any religious person trying to argue this point. Of course that couldn't happen because it's absurd, meaning that a logical contradiction arises. But going back to my original point is that many, many things are...
Wait. He admitted that a logical contradiction arises?
Oh, yeah. He has no problem with that, though.
Oh, right. That's the case. Wow. Anytime an atheist gives me an objection about God, I'll be like, yeah, that's a contradiction, but your logic can't comprehend that. Not only, okay, and whenever you're giving someone a list of arguments to reach a conclusion, It's a good argument if you can do one of two things. One, convince people of the conclusion, or two, make them bite a huge bullet. Usually when the hugest bullet someone can bite is rejecting logic, not only, and you do not want to do that, but Mr. Epsilon not only swallows the bullet, but he does it over and over again, and he presents it like it was a fancy feast or something, and he's just happy and obliged to do it. This is probably why it's one of the worst refutations on YouTube.
Very non-intuitive or counterintuitive. Our universe as we know it right now doesn't give a rat's behind whether we conclude if something is absurd or not absurd. And even if it was absurd, saying that it's absurd doesn't mean it cannot or didn't happen. So a very absurd, contradictory thing could have taken place, and it's a huge problem with these.
See, I mean, there he admitted it again.
Again,
Absurd, contradictory. He mispronounces it so much that I'm going to start mispronouncing it. Yeah, could have taken place is what he said there. So yeah, he's just affirming his terrible position that he's set out with, and that leads me to ask again, what the hell does he want? What would constitute a proof of anything, or an objection to anything? If logic doesn't work, what the hell is anybody supposed to do in the first place? I don't understand where does he go from here?
Exactly.
I want him to have to answer this at some point.
Maybe he'll be like, well, I have to see it and sense it with my eyes and stuff, but even that, you're literally using logic to construct a paradigm where you don't need logic.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. It cannot. Could it even be any worse than that? He really just denies logic here. He says contradictions are okay. He says that could have happened. A contradictory thing could have happened, and that's fine.
Yep.
I don't know what to do about that.
It's something you can't really answer. Usually there's a satisfaction making someone bite the bullet, but this is just too stupid to watch.
An actual infinite has not been proven to be an impossibility. But here is the main fallacy that destroys this entire cosmological argument. This is known as the fallacy of special pleading. This argument rests on the idea that an infinite cannot actually exist, which also means that a finite number of past events must exist and that all of existence is explained by a prior cause. That prior cause is God. The problem here, though, is that if you try to explain existence by causation, you get all the way to God, and then you have to ask yourself, well, who created God?
No.
I got it. Here it is. If God is uncreated, then who created God?
What?
It makes sense. Perfect argument.
You just answered your own argument. That is quite foolish. This is perhaps one of the main examples in any introductory philosophy class of how not to refute the argument. Granted, if everything needs a cause, what caused God? Yeah, fair enough, that follows. But if you say anything which has a beginning has a cause, then it's not special pleading because God doesn't have a beginning. And he's also not a quantitative infinite, like a series of numbers or something.
Oh, he doesn't even make that objection, though, that God would be an actual infinite, which it's good that he doesn't do that, so we don't have to bring that up. But that is an important point, though. That is something in case someone were to try to argue that. But yeah, so the premise one, anything that begins to exist, I mean, he just overlooks that. It's obviously there for a reason. So yeah, that applies to some things, not to everything. If it didn't begin to exist, like God, then it doesn't have a cause. So why would you try to use the argument on God? I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
Obviously, there had to be a more complex, intelligent being to create God.
Why?
Why? This isn't like the intelligent design argument where you could conceivably say, well, if the universe is complex and it needs a cause because it's complex, then God's more complex than the universe. Therefore, God, it's not trying to make that argument from the get-go. Maybe a lot of intelligent design arguments do, but certainly not this one. And even so, that isn't even a good objection to those arguments. But even if that was to work, it doesn't work for this argument.
Existence. And the theist looks at you and he responds, none. God has always existed. And of course, then when the atheist asks why, the theist says, well, that's kind of obvious, because he's God. This is a tautology that they get themselves into almost every single time.
No, it's not a tautology. It's true by definition. A tautology is saying something happens because it happens. That would be an example of a tautology. To say that something possesses this property, therefore it's true. Therefore, it's true of the thing itself is not tautologous. That is just rather stupid.
What they're doing is that they're saying that no other reason other than to make the argument work that God requires no such cause. If you follow that logic all the way through without using special pleading for God, you, the religious person, that theist, are forced.
Oh, you're stupid. Of course they're trying to make the argument work. God, what is wrong with him?
I don't know. Anything that has a beginning. God doesn't have a beginning, therefore he doesn't need a cause.
I know. It's just I can barely take any more of this. I mean, I'd watched this morning because I had to know whatever the hell he was going to be prepared for whatever the fuck he was going to say here, and like I've almost had enough. This is horrible.
Two more minutes. Just we can pull through this.
Who created this God? Because
no! Shut up!
Shut up! Oh, my God! He's reinforcing every stupid cliche argument against theism ever. These are the worst arguments you could literally make to go against the Kalam. The worst. Honestly, I really do feel bad for ripping on this because I'm actually going to post to a really terrific takedown of the Kalam Cosmological argument myself in the description. But yeah, this is not one of them. This is literally the worst.
What are you gonna post?
Are you aware of Counter-Apologist? The Counter-Apologist, he actually has a 5-part post attacking the Kalam.
I think William Lane Craig responded to that.
He only responded to part 3 though, and yeah.
I don't really like. I think his whole argument is the universe not having a cause is not logically impossible, and an actual infinite is not logically impossible. So they're both just absurdities that are on equal level, and we can just pick one or the other. I think that's basically how he goes about it. I don't like that at all. I think that an actual infinite is the wrong way. You do not want to go there. I think that is definitely not something that could happen.
Interesting. What would you suggest another one?
A video on the Kalam. Yeah. No more. I don't know if his is still up.
Oh, actually, yeah, he posted a recent one just a couple days ago that I responded, which basically says that the theist has to defend all the assumptions the Kalam kind of makes. And
yeah, but he doesn't really. That one was just showing, what the Kalam is really requires, I guess. But he wasn't saying. He didn't show what was wrong with all of those, and I really would have liked to see that in that video. If he went point by point, like he says at the very end of it, like I think it was like 10 or so different assumptions that he thinks it has to make, and he says at the end that he thinks all of those are either false or unprovable or something. I would have liked him to show why he thinks that. He has in other videos though, like substance dualism. He's argued against that before. I think that is definitely assumption as far as when Craig goes to the later part of saying that the cause had to be a personal being.
Yeah. That's also a good way to go against it.
I think the best ways are to attack the A theory of time, if you disagree with that, to attack substance dualism, and to attack the notion that having agent causation would solve everything. You can attack the very concept of agent causation as incoherent. You can say that even if there was such a thing as agent causation, it wouldn't fix the problem that Craig is trying to solve, where a mechanistic cause wouldn't work, but a personal cause would. You could attack. Those are the ways that I've criticized it before, and I think those are the best ways to go about it. Some people argue that there is an equivocation fallacy in the argument. We didn't actually see Mr. Epsion do that here, though. Like,
not a good one, at least.
He just said that there was or something. And then what else? And then basically the only other objections that you see are like the ones that theoretical bullshit did. There's the who created God thing, and then there's denying logic. And that's like the worst possible ones. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just flesh this turd out and see where we go from here.
Cause to create this God, another cause to create that God, and you go back and back and back and back till you, that theist, hit what is known as an infinite regress. You just keep going back in time because obviously you had to have some complex being create this God who created
this
another
is so
God.
dreadful. I cannot bear this.
It just goes.
Oh my God! This is the objection 5-year-olds make to God.
Like, I cannot believe he's still going with this. He just says you keep going back and back. It's like, but the premise is right there. Everything that begins to exist. How did he not? I mean, he did read it in the video. Like,
I know. This is just terrible to say the least.
On forever. It doesn't stop. Stopping at God just because you assert that God does not need a cause is the fallacy of special pleading, and you can't do that. But there's one more final problem with the cosmological argument here. Forget everything that I've already said previously about the cosmological argument. Let's give the cosmological argument some flexibility, shall we? Congratulations. You argued very well, but have not proven the first cause of the universe. And that's the problem. Somehow leaping from the Abrahamic tradition to Zeus to mythological gods from point A all of the way to point
what the fuck?
in the alphabet.
I think he's trying to go with, oh yeah, sure, you're right with your cosmological argument, but which God is it?
That's what he's trying to do, but that's not what he said, though. Like, he said that we're leaping from the Abrahamic God to Zeus, and then I don't know why, but he just says we're going from A to Z and all the letters in the alphabet, which has nothing to do with anything. But, yeah, I mean, I don't have to leap from an Abrahamic God to Zeus. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Basically, I'm trying to give him charity again. But
oh, yeah, I mean, I see what you're doing. Like, I guess if you were to translate what he's saying into, like, some human language, you would say that's what he meant to say.
I think that going with my charity, that's the best I can give him. Not a particularly great thing to give him, but he's not giving me much to work with here.
Is a ginormous, humongous leap of logic. And in fact, I would argue an abandonment.
Wait, is he literally criticizing us for abandoning logic right now? Is he literally criticizing the theist?
I don't see.
You have no room to judge here.
Yeah, this is. All right. Let's let him finish his insult here.
Of rationality as
abandonment of rationality.
The first cause, you could easily.
That sums him up pretty well.
The first cause was the universe itself.
Wait, the universe.
Yes, before the universe existed, in order to explain why the universe exists, we're going to say that the universe made itself. That's his more plausible alternative here.
I've heard of people actually arguing for retrocausation, but they actually have backgrounds in, well, like advanced physics. I don't think Mr. Epsion is qualified to argue for retrocausation at all, and even then it's a pretty dubious claim.
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I don't think he knows that he even implied that, though. I don't think he realizes the problem there at all.
For something natural. In fact, the first cause could be 5 gods, 100 gods, 50 gods, or 69 gods.
Yeah, there's a razor of Occam's you could really borrow.
That's what I was. Yeah, I was going to mention that. Why would that be the better explanation that it's 100 gods? I mean,
exactly.
But see, this thing still though, the argument doesn't. he doesn't understand this, and a lot of people. This is the other objection that I hate the most. Cosmological arguments don't prove Jesus was born of a virgin. Those type arguments of you only get so many properties of God out of a cosmological argument. You can't determine which God it is, or any specifics about any theological things about the God, which is fine because the argument isn't meant to show anything like that. And people bring that up as if that's some kind of objection. Like,
Yeah.
you don't. I mean, who cares if it doesn't tell us for sure how many gods there are or what those gods are like? Which religion they came from, which book they wrote, or anything like that. I mean, it doesn't matter at all because that's not what the argument's for. And he brings that up like it's some kind of objection to it. It's just to concede the argument, really, to say, okay, there's a God. It's just we don't know which one it is. Okay, you've just conceded the entire argument.
I have a friend who's a deist who will gladly accept a cosmological argument because, well, she's a deist. She doesn't really think any religion is true, and she's actually pretty scathing of organized religion. But at least with her, I can understand her saying, "Hey, you're a theist. You can't just be using a deistic argument. You should be."
But see, no one does that though.
Yeah, no one actually. He doesn't do that. He is not in a position to do that. It's just face palming.
Occasionally, Craig will do debates where the topic is just something like, does God exist? And all he has to do is use arguments like this. He doesn't have to defend Christianity because, there could be some non-Christian God, and all he has to do is get to deism, and then he's done. And then he's fine with that. But when he's trying to prove Christianity, every single time he will bring the argument from resurrection. He'll list that in his 5 or so arguments that he brings because he needs that one, and that's the one that gets the specific religion. I don't know why people think that they get to their specific religion from the cosmological argument. I've never heard a theist say that. I've never heard any theist say that the cosmological argument proves Christianity or Islam or something like that.
Yeah, in fact, the Kalam Cosmological argument was formulated by a Muslim.
Yeah, and everyone knows that too. So I mean,
yeah, well, everyone except this guy. I don't know why he wouldn't know that. All things considered, he could have just gone on Wikipedia, got the Kalam Cosmological argument, and read, oh wow, that's an interesting history of the Kalam Cosmological argument. But no, he was like, I'll just copy the premises and attack them the best I can.
Had he went to Wikipedia, had he went to an atheist website, had he went to one of William Lane Craig's Q&As or something, had he went to just about anything, he would have found better responses, more insightful things to say about the argument than what he says here. And that's why I'm sticking with my theory that he went to some of the worst atheist videos on YouTube and tried to do slightly worse versions of those.
Basically. Well, let's just finish this one up. 30 seconds to go.
How do we know which god to choose from? Think about it. Anyways, guys, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow reptiles, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this video made sense on the cosmological argument.
It didn't.
No.
No, it did the exact opposite. Although I'm not a fellow reptile, so who the fuck cares what I think?
Tried to make it as coherent and understandable as possible.
Fucking liar.
You failed spectacularly.
Yeah, as coherent as possible. Jesus fucking Christ. If that's... Wow, maybe he really is fucked in the head. I mean...
I would go that far. I think this was at the time when he was starting to deconvert from Christianity and basically was appealing to the lowest common denominator of the atheist community online.
Yeah, when was this? When did he make this? Like
2013, September.
Oh yeah, so
I
don't know when he deconverted. I don't even care about any of that. I completely forgot about all that crap. But so I guess he was a complete atheist at this time, though, or at least it appears that way.
Here's the thing, though. When he first deconverted, I thought, okay, you know what? At this time and age, you're starting to criticize your your faith and your background. Completely understandable why you'd want to give that up. However, now I'm starting to think, yeah, he was probably just doing this to get more subscribers, because he's really going to the bottom of the barrel for this one.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't. You can tell he's. I mean, he sounds like an idiot the entire video. Seriously, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I don't think he thinks he knows what he's talking about. The best he could do was say that he's not a philosophy major. That was good. And I'm going to just list the points that he made that made sense. He's not a philosophy major. What else did he say? I guess that's it. But and he says at the end that he tried to make it coherent. He should have just said that he failed to make it coherent, and then that would have been a lot more respectable thing for him to say, and a lot more honest of him. Because, I mean, I'm live right now. I'm fucking horrible live, and I've made a lot more sense than he did in this video that he had ample time to record and edit and make sure that whatever the fuck that he knows what he's talking about. I mean, he could have done some amount of research here besides going to someone else's video and trying to make a worse version of it. But
I think in the beginning of this, we kind of accused him of ripping off Venaloid's argument against the law.
He took Venaloid had in his older videos. These go way back, like maybe even like 4 years ago or something. He has videos where he says that logic is a description, that it's not, you know, absolute, basically, and that contradictions are kind of okay. I mean, that's not a deal breaker for your argument. When it kind of is, and he backtracked on that and no longer holds to that. I'm thinking that Mr. Epsilon, when he was looking for something to make a video on, he saw one of Venaloid's videos and just took that point and is using that in this video.
Yeah, I would not be surprised, but the main difference is Venaloid was at least far more respectful of borrowing from other YouTubers' content and would actually post the video of the other YouTubers into his own videos and add whatever he had to say in there. Whereas I think Mr. Epsilon is someone who's completely unoriginal in his content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that he plagiarized this, because he definitely added his own spin on it, definitely made it worse. It has his own unique, you know, just shit style, just shit content to it. So yeah, he definitely. I'm not gonna say that he stole from. I don't even know that he saw Venaloid's video. Really, I mean, he's an idiot. He could have thought of that objection on his own, it being that, you know, it's the dumbest one conceivable. That's
I think to say he plagiarized Venaloid would be a huge insult to Venaloid.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Venaloid. I mean, he argued that point, and for a while, people told him how stupid it was. He corrected himself. He no longer does that. I don't think, even when he did argue it, I don't think he was so sure of himself when he was arguing that. I think he kind of, you know, knew that he was on shaky ground there with the whole logic doesn't work thing. You know, that's not really good ground to stand on. And so, yeah, he got rid of that. I don't even know, like, Mr. Epsilon's not conscious of any mistake that he makes at all. So he has no clue what he did here, how bad this video is. He'll never know, really.
And let's see what his final words are.
Again, I want to stress, if you want a free audiobook of your listening...
More fucking
more advertising. Okay, I think we can just safely say that it's done at this time.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to close that up. I'm going to exit out, and yeah, I think we're done basically for the broadcast. Any final words?
That was complete shit. That was unbearable. That was painful. That was, yeah, I've had enough.
Yeah, and I apologize to the audience for saying the term basically a lot. I know that's a speech impediment I have.
At least it's a real word.
At least it's a real word, and it made sense in the sentences I used it in. So yeah, at least I'm a little better than that. But you know what? Saying that I'm better than Mr. Epsilon at speaking is a very low bar, so I don't even think I deserve that. In any case, that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If there was any audio problems in terms of you guys getting what Mr. Epsilon said, I'll take down this video, sync in the audio, and post it back up. In any case, peace.